Growing up, I actually played Final Fantasy on the NES and Final Fantasy on the Game Boy Advance on a Souls remake. The only issue, I never finished either of them. I decided it was time to put an end to that, but this time let's give it a try on the Final Fantasy Origins collection on the Sony PS1. Final Fantasy Origins Remastered Edition came out in North America on April 8th of 2003. For the purpose of this review, we are just going to be focusing on the remastered edition of the original Final Fantasy, not Final Fantasy II, which is also present on the disc. The Origins collection boasts enhanced graphics, remixed soundtracks, a few CGI cutscenes, some added and differing content which I will get into below, and more. In Final Fantasy, you take control of 4 Light Warriors, of which you get to choose your starting classes. There's the Knight, Thief, Monk, Black Mage, White Mage, and Red Mage, each possessing their own special qualities. During my playthrough, I went with the Knight, Thief, Black, and White Mage, and felt it was a well-rounded squad capable of all the hardships that were sure to follow. Later on in the game, if you complete a quest, you'll be able to upgrade their classes to advanced forms. As far as the story goes, as the game states, fires grow cold, the wind stops, seas rage, and the earth begins to rot. The 4 Warriors of Light then appear near the town of Corneria, each holding a crystal. The king of Corneria begs them to save his daughter, who is kidnapped by a traitorous knight, Garland, who's in the shrine to the north. You go to the Chaos Shrine, fell Garland, save the princess, and from there your story unfolds. I'm not really going to divulge more plot information, rather I'll let the story play out for itself. So, right off the bat, what's different about this compared to the others? Well, first, the game is pretty hard. Much harder than the Dawn of Souls remake, or if I'm being honest, most older Final Fantasy games in general. It's about on par with the NES version, which in my opinion is mostly hard due to the UI and odd gameplay choices and console limitations. In Final Fantasy and the Origins collection, you have a choice between easy and normal mode. Easy makes the game easier in a variety of ways, such as easier enemies, more magic points, less experience required to level up, and so forth, whereas normal is more of a traditional take on the game. Some good quality of life changes here consist of, on the original Final Fantasy, if you are scheduled to attack an enemy and that enemy dies, well, too bad. Your other scheduled attackers will then attack the air. In Final Fantasy Origins, it's more like the future games where you will attack the next enemy in the cycle. Another feature added is sort of a save state feature called Memo. You can do this at any time, and if your party perishes, you're able to reset from where you once were when the game starts over. Some huge gameplay differences from those that may have played only later Final Fantasy titles are there are no Phoenix Downs. So, if you die you have to revive at a town in the church or via a reviving magic spell. The magic system also revolves around magic levels, which you are severely limited at that. There's no overall MP system that controls all of your spells. So for example, you may have the ability to only cast a certain spell once at a certain level, no matter your general MP points. Lastly, you're only able to truly save the game at inns or by use of resting items outside of dungeons. No checkpoints in the dungeons, no random saving on the world map, there is no handholding here. Oh yeah, I also wanted to mention that potions basically heal diddly squat, and I'd be remiss if I did not mention the dash button. Funny enough, I didn't realize there was such a thing until the very last dungeon of the game on my playthrough. So yeah, I could have made much better time had I not been slow walking everywhere. Oh well. Graphically and sound-wise, I find that the Origins remake is great and on par with the SNES classics like Final Fantasy IV, 5, and 6, with obviously even more enhanced CD quality audio, albeit limited due to the soundtrack length itself. Much as is the case with the other FF titles, so many of the themes you'll be hearing are going to stick with you and you'll no doubt be humming them in your everyday life. The CGI cutscenes help add to the mystique of the game and don't detract to the overall flow. All in all, it's a very well presented game. Perhaps what I enjoyed most out of this Final Fantasy remake was the difficulty. This game felt hard, I didn't feel like my hand was being held and I felt rewarded upon my progress. I highly advise in playing through this game to do multiple runs of your dungeons, loot the first floor or two, retreat, heal up, save and go back in. If you push on too far, you will likely fall victim due to your limited healing and magic supply. Also, early on in the game, if you're running low on money, there is a minigame where if you perform a special button combination while on your ship, you can play a puzzle game which rewards you with a handsome prize if you're able to obtain one of the top 3 time clears. Super helpful in the early game if you don't feel like grinding for cash. Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed my experience, and if you're looking for a fresh take on a vintage classic, give this one a go. If you haven't played any version of Final Fantasy 1 before this, you might want to start with this one. I give the Final Fantasy Origins version of Final Fantasy 1 an 8 out of 10. It's a highly enjoyable experience, it was truly challenging and rewarding. Until next time.